Hello and good morning, everybody. Hope you're well on this Tuesday. My name is Dean Quick. I'm the board certified music therapist for Levine Cancer Institute, and this is Music Therapy for Self-Care, where weekdays at 10 a.m. I go live on a few different platforms and bring you some type of music experience. So, get my water bottle out of the way there. Some type of music experience. And Mondays and Fridays are all about live looping, where I create instrumental music for you to use however you'd like. And Wednesdays are a focus on something more clinical in nature, like progressive muscle relaxation or autogenic relaxation, all music assisted. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are for song discussion. And today is a little bittersweet because I'm ending my 3-part series on metal. I even wore my black shirt today, just because I thought it would be more metal. I don't know. Anyways, so I've got quite a few different things to talk about today, different music examples. And yeah, so last time we talked about, what did we talk about last time? We talked about the original metal and kind of moving up from there. Today we're going to talk about kind of the more extreme metal that's out there, and there's actually a subgenre. Well, it's actually more of a blanket, not a subgenre of metal that's extreme metal, where it's the lyrics are extreme, the presentation of live performances and the whole gravitas of the band is extreme. And so we'll talk about extreme metal, but I'd like to talk first about one of my favorite genres of metal, which is called doom metal. And doom metal is classified typically with really thick, heavy guitar sounds. And it's typically slow, and it just kind of drives. It's like a machine that's built for only distortion, and it just drives on and on and on. So one of the first doom metal acts is this group called Candlemass, and I chose a song by them. It's not one of their original songs. It does feature Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath playing guitar on it, but I wanted to use it because most people, when they hear doom metal, and they're not entirely wrong, think it's about the end, like it's about doom, and it is, but a lot of doom metal isn't about physical and real doom. A lot of it is about kind of fictional doom. And this track from Candlemass that I want to talk about is about Astorlus, who is it's called Astorlus the Great Octopus, and you get some real H.P. Lovecraft kind of vibes from it because it's about this octopus that's eventually going to come and destroy the earth. And I'm going to pull up the lyrics for you so I can read some of those, because we're not going to listen to the whole song. I don't know what I did differently last time, but I did not get any weird copyright claims. I mean, they got copyright claims, but it didn't block the video last time, so that's good. Okay, so here are some of the lyrics. In the folds of mythology, never died, never born, demented god, a monstrosity, oh, you block the sun. Octopus, the point of no return, you're the hunger, the one. There you wait for moon and man to fall from the wall of the world. guardian of Nyx, epic in the abyss, at the earthfall, there's a mountain of skulls. You swallow the earth. Astoralus. So check this out. So you hear. So you hear the thick guitar sound versus some of the other metal styles that we've listened to, and it almost doom metal typically has like this 70s feel to it. Yeah, so I love that. And there are, we talked about instrumental metal last time too. And so there are some more instrumental-based doom metal acts, but Candlemass typically has lyrics. So they were around in 1984. They were one of like the founding groups. There's another one called Paradise Lost. Here they are. They came around in 1988, but Candlemass was kind of like one of the original doom metal acts. Now this is super doom metal, and the lyrics do talk about physical doom. No Hope in Sight is the name of the track, and typically it's about. Not about individual doom, but overall doom, like what, the end of everything. And typically it's someone battling something, or whether it be a large octopus in the sky, or battling internal demons. And I talked in the first episode, or first part of the series, metal, I did talk about how metal's all about validating, right? Like it validates something within you, and not everybody, because some people hear this and it makes them feel worse because it doesn't validate anything about what they're going through. But people like me who love those sounds, I'm drawn to those heavy sounds. It's super validating for me, even though I might not have experienced anything related to doom, but it still validates a part of me. So yeah, that's a little bit about doom metal. It is about doom, but it's not. They sing about bleak outcomes and all this, but the idea is that it validates within you this battle, this struggle to kind of overtake whatever's bothering you. So another example of doom metal, and here's some newer examples of doom metal. This one's a little different. This has some lo-fi sounds in it. This is a group called, I'm not kidding, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, and they kind of bridge the gap between doom metal and psychedelic metal and stoner rock. So here they are, and it's different than the previous two examples of doom metal. So we already got like some samples in here. That's different. The guitar tone is not thick, but it has that 70s vibe to it. Even though doom metal came around in the 80s, they relied heavily on like that 70s distortion in that guitar tone. Driving drums. Very distinctive sound. I'll fast forward a little bit. This is a song called I'll Cut You Down. So it sounds very different than the other two examples, and we're going to go even more different, because that's kind of more like a rock and not so much metal, but it is classified as doom metal, and it has all the aspects of doom metal in it too. Last week I got very excited to share with you that I had found a great example of doom metal, and here it is. It's a group called Elephant Tree, and strangely enough, they don't have a Wikipedia page, but I was able to find out a good bit of information about them, so check them out. Elephant Tree, and this track is called Bird. I mean, that's good stuff right there. So it's got all the aspects of any great metal song. And it's not so much, the lyrics aren't doom and gloom, though it's still doom metal. It's kind of progressive too. And what you'll find as you dive into this genre of metal, that there's a lot of crossover. You'll pull up a band's bio on Wikipedia or their own page, and you'll see them classified as a bunch of different genres of metal. Sometimes it can change based on the album, and sometimes it's just because they're difficult to classify. And it's the same with any complex genre. But these lyrics, this song's called Bird by Elephant Tree. Hush now, bird, you cannot fly. Sparrows save your only flight. Winter's here and you are cold. No other bird would be so bold. Fly, rising, die, trying. I mean, it's like it's really about, this bold entity, right? This bird, this bold thing, is going up against something. Save your only flight, winter. Feel winter's icy bite. No other bird would be so bold. Everything that rises must converge. Please don't cry into the wind. Eyes bright begin to sting. Soft wings brush the cold above. Soaring high, welcome rays of sun. So it has this hopeful end that this bird does in fact rise above this cold and gets the warmth that they're looking for. So I love that. I love that so much. I love that song. That whole album is really great. It's let's see. Habits is the name of the album. So check that out. So we had 4 examples of doom metal. There is a lot more out there for doom metal. I saw a Tool, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, a little less maybe, and they brought a doom metal band to open up for them that I had not heard of, and I don't think anybody in the audience had heard of them before either. They were called, hey, William, thanks for joining. They were called Yob, Y-O-B. I'll give you an example of their music. Um, it was an example of why in music therapy it's important to play patient preferred music, because we were there listening to this band that we weren't familiar with, and playing just this constantly going. Let's see if this is an example. It was just this dirge of just heavy guitar for like 20 minutes. No vocals, nothing. They didn't introduce themselves. And that was actually one of my first exposures to like traditional doom metal. So this is the intro. Let's see if there's any vocals in this one. All right, so we'll go. That's a minute. Yeah. So imagine this. I'm there to see Tool. Imagine like no introduction. They just start playing this, and everybody's kind of into it at first, like, because it's heavy. And then after 20 minutes, you get kind of tired of it because you don't know the concept. You don't have a grasp on what it is. So you're just kind of waiting for the next thing, and the next thing never comes. So I'm going to go even further into the song. This is a 10 and a half minute track. Okay, so we do have vocals in this one. But I feel like the beginning really was a good representation of what it was that I experienced at that concert. They were, Yob, now I've listened to them, and they are good. A good example of doom metal. So next, I do want to preface everything I'm about to talk about with a little bit of a warning. Because I'm going to be talking about extreme metal. And you can't talk about metal without talking about the dark side of metal. That's where its roots really kind of are, right? So extreme metal is what it sounds like. It is super extreme. So they embody everything extreme, right? So in the 90s, let's take it back. Okay, so even before the 90s, think 80s, late 70s, you have Alice Cooper, who comes out with face paint, and he jumps out of skulls, and, he sings about, kind of controversial topics, and he has pyrotechnics and all this stuff at his shows, and the music's kind of heavy. That was extreme then. And then G.G. Allen comes along, and it's more performance art than it is music, and just blows all that out of the water. And then in the 90s, you have standing on the shoulders of those two shock rock genres, you have someone like Marilyn Manson. And all of this to say, everybody has these conceived notions and observed actualities of Marilyn Manson being this fringe artist, and all that to say, like, he's super vanilla when it comes to metal. Like, he's more like a shock rock industrial artist. So, disclaimer: if you think Marilyn Manson is difficult to watch, don't Google any of the artists that I'm about to talk about right now, because extreme metal is really extreme. So it came along in the 80s as well, not much of a big following. So there was this act. Their name, and even the names are extreme, right? I'm not gonna pull up any of the album artwork of these bands, just because it is that bad. It's that extreme. I don't want to put the visual up there, but the music is not explicit, mainly because it's difficult to understand what they're saying. So there are some people who really love extreme metal. And last time I talked about black metal. And black metal is a subgenre of extreme metal. And doom metal is also a subgenre of extreme metal. But the folks that are focused on just providing extreme metal, I got three early examples of extreme metal. And so one of the first was this group called Morbid Angel, and this is a track called "Fall from Grace." It is characterized by really fast music. Typically, this is not, but this is kind of where it evolved from. So you can hear where doom metal, the guitar sound is derived from groups like Morbid Angel. And their drum sound actually kind of defined where they went with things. So I want you to hear the vocals. Here's the past, right? Nobody else in metal was doing this in the 80s. Especially not 83. So the vocals are sometimes painful to listen to. They're percussive. They're not melodic. It is just all around kind of extreme. Like even when you have metalcore groups, like I'm going to be talking about another metalcore group in other considerations towards the end of this today. When they're growling, when you have those low churning vocals, it's a little easier to listen to. It sounds a little more polished. There's not much polished about extreme metal because it's about what they're exuding. It's the energy they're exuding, and it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. It's the same reason people love horror movies, right? This is like the musical embodiment of a horror film, and their stage shows are horrific. Another one, and this is a little more extreme of a name, it's called Cannibal Corpse. And I'm actually not going to play any of their music. They are more extreme than some of the others. So I'm choosing not to play any of their music because the two examples that I have now, you can get the idea of what extreme metal sounds like from its roots. But Cannibal Corpse came around in 1988, so they were one of the early extreme metal acts. Here's another more popular one, Behemoth. Now, what I'll say about extreme metal is it's kind of the Morbid Angel comes around in the 80s, and they start singing. They do have satanic content in their lyrics, right? And that, I mean, the idea that some people hear metal and they automatically think that it's satanic is not founded on lies. Like it's true that a lot of metal started and they had satanic themes in it. Metal today, you won't find any of that. Like the more popularized, like deathcore, metalcore, like those types of artists aren't using any type of imagery like that, but it kind of was all born from that in the extreme metal genre in the 80s. And when the 90s hit, most of that phased out, but that also was kind of like the birth of black metal, because black metal took over and kept singing about those things, specifically artists like Gorgoroth. So Behemoth is they come around in 1991, and they are in technically the subgenre blackened death metal, and most of their music isn't satanic, but it's I don't know if you're familiar with Aleister Crowley, but he had like this thelemic idea that was like the occult social, or it was like a spiritual philosophy, and it was kind of pagan in nature, and Behemoth kind of falls in there. So here's an example of their music. This is a track called Malice. Fast drums, fast guitar, uncomfortable vocals. So, still very early extreme metal. All right, so that's probably the heaviest we'll get. And after talking about all that, it feels kind of weird going into thrash, because most people associate the band Slayer with all the things that I just said with extreme metal. But they, if you were to put Slayer in extreme metal, they would be the most vanilla and bland example of extreme metal, because in fact they are more thrash. So how is thrash different? So I'm gonna put this back on. So this is Behemoth, this is extreme metal. I want you to listen to the tone of the guitar. Alright, here's Morbid Angel. Alright, fast forward a little bit. Alright, so this is extreme metal. This is Slayer, thrash. I'm going to fast forward because there's a lot going on. Probably recognizable. This is a very popular song. So this song's called Raining Blood. So the guitar is still fast, but notice that the tone of the guitar is different. It's still distorted, but it's not as thick. Oh, and then there's lyrics that you can understand. They're not growling. So that's one of the distinctive differences between extreme metal or metalcore or doom metal. Thrash has understandable lyrics. Now you might say, I can't understand a word he's saying. Well, if you listen to a lot of metal, you can. I love that. Love that. They're probably the only true. Well, I probably like Slayer most of all in thrash. I do like Metallica, but I'm not a big Metallica fan. Most people associate this next group with the genre of thrash, and it's Anthrax. So they are probably the most thrash. Thrash metal fans, I'm sorry to say this, but Anthrax is barely not a hair metal band to me. So you get the idea. So they were '81. Slayer and Anthrax both came around in '81. In '83, you get Megadeth. Megadeth changed thrash. So you got, this is Symphony of Destruction. It's their most popular song. You got this orchestra warming up. So cool. Always love that. All right.
You take a model man
So you can understand, even though he's kind of growly,
and put him in control.
so the guitar's a little thicker, but it's not as thick as doom metal or extreme metal.
Watch people's heads roll.
Yeah, so that is thrash. I wanted to give you a newer example of thrash. Thrash is kind of on its way out. Slipknot is a thrash group, which you can almost call them just straight up hard rock or metal. So this is their track Duality. It's their most popular track. And when I say most popular track on here, I'm basing that off of the amount of listens that they have on Spotify and on Last.fm. So this is 10 years later in the 90s. Actually, this song, I think this came out in the early 2000s. So it's changed a little bit. It's still thrash. Their first album was more thrash. So that wraps up thrash metal. And it's, yeah, I mean, Metallica, you can listen to, I mean, Enter Sandman's a great example of thrash. I'm just not going to play it. Definitely would get hit with a copyright claim from them. Lars Ulrich would be ready to go with that one. So other considerations. Metal is one of those genres that people can be scared of for a lot of different reasons. Some people are afraid of it because it's lyrical content. Some people are not interested in hearing someone scream for an hour on an album. And some people who are into rock just are overwhelmed by all the subgenres. And that's one of the things to love about metal is how diverse it is. I mean, it's like metal and hip hop and R&B and rap are this like so diverse within the overall genre. You'll get some of that with rock. You'll barely get any of that with country, and you'll barely get any of that with pop. But metal and rap, hip hop, R&B are so diverse once you get into the genre. So that's one of my other considerations to just put out there is just choose a band and listen. You know, I've given examples of, I mean, today alone there's 11, and now I'm going to talk about 3 other bands. You know, it's 14 bands today that are in the metal genre. Choose one, listen to it. I don't know. I could go back and count. I don't think I'm going to. But the other 2 parts, I at least talked about 10 to 15 bands, different bands in each one of those episodes, in the series, each part of the series. So check out metal. It could fill a gap that you have right now in your musical tastes. It could speak to you in a way that something else wouldn't. So my other consideration with metal is that if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's really something. And when you get into it, when you experience your first unexpected drop, it's an amazing feeling that can be repeated over and over with each new album. So check it out. There are 3 other bands that I really like that I just they weren't popular enough to put them in with their respective genres, but I knew in planning all this that I was going to have something kind of at the end to fill in some gaps, and I wanted to put them in there. This is the first group's called Gojira, and this song's called Silvera. They're a French metal band. And they kind of fit just right in metal. I mean, they are a metal band. They're kind of groove metal. But listen to that. Yeah, pretty amazing. There's a YouTube video of them at, I think their whole show is on this particular YouTube video of them at Metal Fest, and they get some cool shots. I mean, they're playing this music, and there's a camera shot from behind the band. You can see the front man. He's playing, and there's all this smoke around him. There's like kind of a sunset, and it just looks so apocalyptic. It is metal. That's part of the other consideration too. It's like when someone calls someone metal, it's very clear what they mean. Like if something's metal, like it is hardcore, awesome, right? So this was an embodiment of metal. Is that example on YouTube of their live thing, their live show at Metal Fest, or was it Resurrection Fest? I don't know. There's so many metal festivals, and they're all awesome. So this is a group called Oceano. The song's called District of Misery, and they would be metalcore or deathcore. And you would get right into it. So that is Oceano. They're amazing. And this last one's kind of psychedelic. It bridges the gap. I mean, it's kind of psychedelic. Super metal. They're a group called Intronaut. They could also be progressive rock too, but they're like a heavy progressive rock. So I'll fast forward so you can hear some of the vocals. So you can hear the progressive rock elements in there. Super rhythmic. Yeah, I love those guys. They're a new find for me. So Gojira came around in 1996, Oceano came around in 2006, and Intronaut came around in 2005. So all within the last 20 years. And there's all three of them are writing new music still. And surprisingly, a lot of the acts that I've shared, with the exception of some of the original metal artists, of course, are still writing new music and holding on to that sound, but adapting it to the times that we're in. And as Dylan says, the times they are a-changing, and with that, metal is also changing. There's artists, I didn't plan to share this, but I just had the thought. Another thought that I had too for thrash metal, If you've ever heard of Pantera is thrash as well. Pretty classic example of thrash metal. So this group is called the Browning, and let's see, what is the song? Make sure this is the right band. All right, that doesn't look familiar to me. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. So they're a metal band that uses a lot of electronic samples. So it's kind of changing in that regard. Even though this came out in 2018. 2018. So you can hear the synth in the background. All this electronic stuff going on. This is very new to metal. You know, used to metal, any samples, it would be like samples from movies, of, you know, setting this certain aesthetic of you know, madness or doom or whatever it is that they're going for. So yeah, it's probably a good place to wrap it. If you've watched all 3 of these parts of metal, thank you. I put a lot of thought and consideration into what I shared. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, genre of music, and it's one that music therapists, I see in forums all the time. People ask about it because they're unsure. So I wanted to create something that colleagues could dive into and get an idea of what the different types of metal are that are out there, and hear some examples and hear it from a true metalhead, what they are and my perspective. So if you get a metalhead client, you'll have some better understanding. I wanted to create this for the folks who maybe have tuned into me before and I was singing some James Taylor and now wasn't really doing it because you need something heavier. Well, this one's for you. Also, I would like to continue keeping Tuesdays as for song discussion as topical, right? So instead of me sharing music and just kind of having like a mixed bag of songs to play and sing and, you know, kind of talk about, I'd like for Tuesdays to be as topical as possible. So if there's a genre of music that you feel that I should talk about, let me know. I'd like to give 2 choices. So if you would like for me to talk about hip hop and rap and R&B, let me know. Or if you'd rather me talk about, I'm going on the exact opposite side of the genres here in regards to instrumentation and life experiences, country music. So those are the choices. And surprisingly, there's a blend between the 2 that are coming out around now. You'll get like these country hip hop blends, and they are interesting. So it's, yeah, interesting state of music we're in. So hip hop, rap, R&B, or country music. What should be the next topic that I take apart and do a series on and give some examples? So you let me know in the comments, and I will do whatever gets the most votes. And I think I'll put up a poll on Twitter and Facebook and see what folks are interested in hearing more about. So with that, I'll leave you. I hope you have a good rest of your today is Tuesday. Hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday, and I will catch you next time here on Music Therapy for Self-Care. So take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.